For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and oh, what a week it was. Wow, lots of milestones, I guess you'd call them. Now, first up was Sunday for Betty White's 99th birthday. I was at her 90th. If you can believe it or not, I was in Hollywood at her 90th birthday, or Los Angeles, actually. And I'll tell you that story because I always like to take a walk down memory lane on B-Dub's birthday. So my first-hand account of what it was like, rubbing elbows with the Hollywood legends, really, is what it was. And then moving forward, there was Inauguration Day on Wednesday. I mean, that was historic unto itself because there was a lot of nervousness about what's going to happen. Will the Trump mob resurface? Will there be more attacks as forecasted? And for onlookers, strangely, this is what's interesting, is that some people were actually disappointed there wasn't more unrest across the country. I'll talk about that coming up in just a bit. And then on Thursday, Canada had its own political scandal. The Governor General resigned after being dubbed, well, if I can say, a diva bitch, basically, is what her former staff had to say about her. Julie Payette stepped down after, I mean, there was a bit of scandal over the past little while, but we'll talk about all of that on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. At the top of the show, I mentioned it was Betty White's 99th birthday on Sunday, and for me, there's always a significance, at least for the last 9 years anyway, about Betty White's birthday. And I'm going to tell you a story because I was an invited media guest in Los Angeles, 9 years ago, obviously. And to me, the story, I don't know, it's just a unique story. I mean, we know I have met so many different celebrities covering red carpets and doing things, so it's not like I fanned out. It wasn't that. But there was something about the show Golden Girls that resonated with me, maybe as a homo, but just a lot of people just love that show. It's got, I would say, a cult following of people who know it, episodes word for word. There's so many different memes, and when I see them, when I scroll through social media and I see them, just like, I remember that episode, I know that line, it's just a show that you love it or you don't, and I think most people do. And so for me, my dream guest was always Bea Arthur. I wanted to have her on the radio shows, or interview. She was my dream guest as an interview, and it just never happened. She was going to do her one-woman show in my hometown of Winnipeg many, many years ago. It was actually the year when September 11th happened. She was actually going to be performing in the fall of that year, and then it was canceled because things just changed, right? The world sort of changed. And I never got a chance to meet Bea Arthur, and so I thought, wow, well, Betty White's kind of like the last one left. I mean, that show, it still has this legacy that is unparalleled. And so I then became a really, really big fan of Betty White, because this is also what's crazy, is that at 90, or I guess it was 88 or so, is when she kind of revived her career, right? She had that hidden camera like prank show. She was on Hot in Cleveland. Then later she was hosting SNL as a one-time gig. And just that energy, and to know that she's an animal lover as well, and she loves golden retrievers. I had a golden retriever, I still do, but I had a golden retriever at the time. And so I had been trying to interview her for our radio shows. I mean, if you want to know about a persistent dick, that is I. And for weeks leading up to the televised broadcast that NBC was producing, I was reaching out over and over and over again. Can we get a phone interview? Can we get a phone? This was before the days of Zoom and all that stuff. Just a phone call. This is truly what I'm saying is, even if you just dial your cell phone and hand it to her and say, here, you're talking to Jeremy. Like, it's not even that she's got to figure out how to dial me or whatever. I had a busy schedule at the time as well. Even then, I was just like, anytime she can do it. I don't care what's on my schedule that day or that moment. I will do it whenever she can. Like, you just kind of start throwing out all these Hail Marys of, can we do it? And so the week before NBC was taping. Now, I should point out that the special was taped a week or two, I think, before her birthday. It wasn't actually taped on her birthday. And that's how showbiz is, right? And so that week leading up to it, I I was really I would say, truthfully, almost every 4 days sending an email. And it was no. Finally, on the Thursday, so now we're a few days before this thing tapes, I get a no, but then I get the offer of, did you want to attend and cover the birthday and red carpet? I mean, holy fucking sweet balls, ladies and gentlemen. And you know that I don't swear very easily on this show. I mean, even right now, just when I say this, I'm getting goosebumps. Because, remember, I'm this kid in Winnipeg who's broadcasting out of his house, trying to make it seem like I'm a somebody when I'm really, just somebody who talks on the radio. And I thought, oh my God, so you're not going to give me a phone call with her. Now, I realize, don't get me wrong, I'm not misunderstanding the invitation. I'm not sitting here thinking that we're going to do a, face-to-face Barbara Walters sit-down. I realized that I'm just going to be at the event with everybody. And I said, oh my God, a place on the red carpet. And I knew who was going to be there, right? You had the showbiz legends, Carol Burnett, Mary Tyler Moore, Carl Reiner, Ed Asner, Gavin MacLeod, Valerie Harper, Vicky, just a who's who of that era, right? From the Carol Burnett show and everything else, and Mama's Family, all those shows that they all did together. And so I was actually getting ready to go for lunch with my brother. And I thought, much like the other things that we produce for the radio shows, I can't go and blab all this stuff because not every detail was finalized. It was just sort of like, I got the email asking. At that point, I didn't have details about, be here, do this, you're going to talk to... no. And so my brother's on his way to pick me up because I like to have a couple drinks with lunch. And I was like, oh my God, well, I can't say anything to him, but I have a horrible poker face. There's no way that I'm going to be able to get through lunch without saying something. I know that. I've lived with myself for how many years? I know that I'm not going to be able to. Trust me, not going to happen. And so we went to the restaurant that we always went to, and we would go there for about a good 2 hours, but because it was more social. It was a buffet, but it was more social. We sit, we talk, we eat a little bit. Him and his wife were just having kids at the time, so he'd bitch about the kids and the wife. I'd talk about my entrepreneurial life because I think that was sort of interested him as well. And I was being very quiet at lunch. I really didn't. I was sort of, at first he thought that I was bothered, like that I was upset, like that there was something wrong. Well, the thing that was wrong was I couldn't blab my news that I had. I mean, this was incredible news, at least for me anyway, and probably many aspiring broadcasters or even Golden Girls fans. And so eventually I just kind of said to him, and the conversation throughout our lunch basically then was steamrolled by this topic. And he's like, well, that's really exciting. Like, you're going to fly to Los Angeles, which I'd been to LA many times before. I had already started to cover, the America's Got Talent, Red Carpet, The Voice, American Idol, things like that. So it wasn't about excitement of going to LA or Hollywood. Been there, done that, not a big deal. And so he's like, well, how are you going to, you're going to book the flights? Where are you going to stay? And I said, again, already, I have a hotel that I stay at all the time. Shout out to them, and, so we actually sort of made it a quick lunch, and yes, I downed a few drinks that day. And then I come home, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I've got to get this pulled together in, 2 days. And we had pre-taped, because January is typically award show season, obviously not this year with shutdowns and whatever, all the awards got pushed back. We had pre-taped the content to run the next week. So we had a preview of, I don't remember if it was the SAG Awards, because Golden Globes maybe it was the Golden Globes. And so right away I was like, well, scrap that. I mean, who cares about that? We're going to do a live broadcast 2 hours from the red carpet of Betty White's 90th birthday. So I go and I pitch that to stations because, it's their airwaves, it's their airtime. I've got to get their approval to a point, and especially to go live. And without question, the responses were literally coming in within minutes of like, yeah, that'll be awesome. Oh my God, congratulations. So excited for you. And so I remember, so yes, this was a Thursday. We went for the lunch. I flew out the Friday evening from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, my hometown. And it was late at night, and there was a flight delay in Winnipeg leaving because, again, being winter, you've got to be de-iced and blah, 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 blah. So we sat there for a while. And the connection that I had in Denver was a short one, so I wasn't necessarily going to make that flight. And so I was just like, oh my God, it's disaster. Now I'm in panic mode, full-on panic mode. Not realizing, you know what, even if you have to stay overnight here, you can go first thing in the morning. You're flying to Los Angeles, not freaking Timbuktu where there's no flights, right? You'll get to Los Angeles. You might not have time to, chill at the pool and get ready and stuff like that, but you'll still make it there for the afternoon, for early evening. And so I'm sitting there, and then because I'm getting worked up, and nobody would have even known, and there was always a part of me when I go on a plane for these things, there's a part of me that wants to, say something to the person sitting beside me, or just brag and be like, going to Betty White's birthday. Or even just like flip through things, like flip through the notes that they send so that if the person is reading over my shoulder or, glancing over, they're going to see like, Los Angeles, Betty White, Carol Burnett, hotel reservation. It's just, you sort of want to, that's me maybe. Not everybody does that. And so I did make the connecting flight, thankfully. And while I was on that flight, now again, this was when I had a laptop and an external hard drive that you needed to plug in, like your external hard drive needed power as well. So I didn't have enough plugs in this row where I was sitting because my laptop was old and wouldn't survive, 20 minutes without being plugged in. And I thought, I'm going to make her a picture of my dog Ernie. I know that I have a picture of him wearing a party hat. I know that she loves golden retrievers. I've got to make this happen. So I can't flip through my hard drive while I'm on the plane, but I was like, that's the first thing I do. So as soon as I get to Los Angeles and get on that god-awful airport shuttle, because again, before the days of Uber and things like that, you get in the van, with 9 other travelers, and you're stopping at 8 hotels, and yours is always the last one. And so it takes about 2 hours to get there, and I get to the hotel. It was well after midnight at this point. Get to the hotel, you throw my things all over the bed, the couch, whatever, and go to the CVS pharmacy because, again, I stay in the same area all the time. I know it's just down the street. I go there, get the picture printed, buy a frame, come back to the hotel, and now I'm like, okay, good. I had the shits the whole night, even on the plane. Because I was just so anxious about trying to get there on time, making sure that everything happened. I even reread the email over and over again to make sure that I understood that I'm being invited, that I'm going to be allowed there, because it was sort of a pinch me moment. So the next morning, of course I couldn't sleep, so I'm up super early. I go up to the pool. I do the usual photos of, lounging at the pool and, sipping a drink, and it's like preparing for, and again, I wasn't big into social media then, so I couldn't be bragging to everybody. But these were just things that I would do for myself. And so now the clock is ticking, right? And then I get dressed. I'm wearing the most expensive sweater that I've ever bought. I bought it at Banana Republic when I was covering Canadian Idol a few years earlier. $115, size small because I'm a small person. And and I was just getting ready. And then I remember taking all of these sort of behind the scenes photos, and then they're always just for myself because nobody ever sees them. I don't really tell the story. Quite honestly, I never thought that anybody would care, but now I'm starting to sort of think, if these would make a good memory that people would find interesting, these stories. Hence the reason for telling it on the podcast this week. And again, so before the days of Uber, I hired a private car to take me there. And even on the way there, I'm sweating like crazy. My armpits are just soaking wet. And I was like, I'm doing this. This is happening. And again, remember, I had covered the American Country Awards and, Celebrity Apprentice in New York and TV Land Awards and things like that. So it's not like I've never done this before, but there was just something different about this. And I didn't fan out. Again, I've never had a fan out moment like that. And so I get to the red carpet. Again, I'm this Canadian guy, so the other people there from the local entertainment scene, they all know each other and they're all talking. I'm always the outsider. But there was something exclusive about that, like, I flew in from Canada for this. And so then I've suddenly got street cred amongst the divas that are covering the red carpet. And this was before bloggers and everything sort of took over the whole, showbiz scene. And so then the event is happening, and here we go. And it was so frenzied. I mean, it was running late, and which, of course, if you're doing a live broadcast is terrible because you've got that time commitment and the airtime. And because I host a music show, it's not like it's 2 hours like you see Seacrest on the carpet, doing it over and over. I've got a music set. There's breaks and stuff in between. And yeah, I mean, this was the most star power that we'd ever had on a show before. I already listed some of the celebrities. I mean, we had the cast of Hot in Cleveland. We had Amy Poehler. We had Joel McHale. I mean, there were so many other people that joined us. And then I thought, okay, well, now the red carpet's over. Now I can just relax and unwind and watch the show, right? Because NBC was producing this televised special. And again, I watch it every year on her birthday. And it was crazy then to think, I'm now watching the show they're recording. It wasn't on television live, but I'm now watching this show that hey, she was wearing that outfit when she just came and talked to me, and I just met him like 10 minutes ago. Again, I'd been in this scenario before, but there was just something so new about it. And again, I'm taking all these pictures in the press room, and then, Betty had come in to do a press conference, and I'm holding my Kodak digital camera. I'm hitting record and taking video as I ask her a question, and she's answering my question, and she walked past me, and, it was just so weird in the moment. And so when everything was all over, I went back into the press conference room, and I sat in the chair that she had sat in. I was tempted to steal it, but I went and did that, and even took pictures of my legs, in the chair. And on the way home in the car, I just started laughing. I just started laughing out loud, thinking, this happened. This happened. And so it really was a pivotal moment for me. I'm coming up to 15 years on the radio for my shows. And, again, being this guy who started out in his parents' basement 15 years ago to then having his opportunities, to me, it was really fun. Again, not about fanning out, just the fact that I made this happen. So happy birthday, happy 99th birthday, Betty White. We've got to take a quick break. When we come back, let's move to Wednesday, Inauguration Day. My thoughts as a Canadian about the U.S. presidential inauguration right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here on the Scribble. Inauguration Day was Wednesday. Congratulations again to President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Ever since I heard her say the pronunciation of her name on a TV show, I will never forget. Comma, like the punctuation, and la, Kamala. There you go. And thanks for that. Congratulations. What a big day for them. And really, I've got to tell you, Americans were just relieved that Trump was going to be out of office, or at least, 80-some million of them that voted for Biden. But there was this big relief, and then the uncertainty that there was going to be unrest across the country. We heard that all of the states were on high alert, that there could be another mob and riots and violence and what have you. And I got to tell you, as a Canadian, and people from other countries watching this, kind of wanted to see it too, and it's sort of a sick thing. Now, we're not talking that we wanted to see people get hurt, that we wanted to see deaths. I'm only speaking for myself, I guess. I didn't want to see that, but there's just something fascinating about watching it when you see this country and people destroying their own stuff, really. When right, like we had this discussion on the podcast a few weeks ago. When you're storming and mobbing the Capitol and destroying it, you paid for those windows. You paid for the things that you're smashing and stealing. We just didn't understand it. Anyway, moving on to the inauguration. So I was up super early that morning because my job as an entertainment reporter is to be watching, social media. What are the celebrities saying? How is it all playing out? And really just as a regular TV viewer, wondering what's going to happen? Which city is going to erupt first? Is it going to be like New Year's Eve where you see the East Coast start because they're all awake first and then gradually go across? What's going to happen? And the first thing that happened that day was Trump, of course, gradually departing the White House. And I've got to say, when he was late leaving, he was supposed to leave at such and such time, and then 10 minutes in, you're like, okay. And then CNN reports that it's probably going to be about 30 minutes late. It just makes you think he's stealing all the Diet Cokes. They're cleaning up the hooker piss from the bed. He's doing something. The something is going on. Why is he late? We heard that Melania was moving stuff out early. He's not tweeting, so what's the delay? Is he doing his hair? Is he tanning? Is he painting his orange makeup? What's going on? So there was that. And seeing the red carpet come from the White House and then just lead to, a brown field, I was like, there's something that's not so exclusive about this. If the red carpet took you right to the chopper in the middle of the grass, okay, that's one thing. But the red carpet just leads you to a field. So that was a bit bizarre. And the camera was always sort of from a distance, so you didn't get close-ups. But it looked like there were maybe 5s of people, 10s of people. Like he wanted this big salute, right? And I think there were some sort of cannon things or whatever they shot. But what was his salute? The YMCA song and Gloria and okay. So that was sort of comedic to see that, and just to be, to see him like talk outside the plane. What it reminded me of is when my parents would like leave town or go to the lake, and my brothers and I would be standing in the kitchen, and your mom is telling you all these things, and remember this, and this and this and this. And this and this and this, and you're sitting there going, just go already. Like this has happened, but just leave. And I'm Canadian, so it doesn't even matter that it's not my White House. And when I say not my president, that's not me being defiant. He's truly not my president as a Canadian. And then you have Biden go to church. Then I actually did take a bit of a nap at that point. I don't, watching a church service I don't care who you are. I don't want to watch you in church. And I fell asleep watching Wendy Williams on the couch for a little bit. And then I woke up right as the inauguration was starting. And there was just something fascinating about it. Everybody talking about Garth Brooks' hair. Did he get hair plugs? Did he have a dye job? What happened? And even when he took off his hat, even I've met him. I've seen him in concert. And I was kind of like, there's something different about, like, what? I just can't. And then I was like, his hair just looks funny. And then I go to Twitter, right? That's your best source. And that's where I see all the people just, commenting and ripping apart his new do. And Lady Gaga's outfit, the big like bird or something that she had on her, was it a golden dove? Yeah, I think is what it looked like. And Jennifer Lopez, I was sort of hoping that she's all of a sudden then going to just rip off and have like a sparkly shimmery dress and recreate the Super Bowl performance or something. And then some people didn't quite get that was a joke. They were like, well, that would be inappropriate for the seriousness of it's like, it's a joke. Lighten up. Shut the fuck up. And so it was just a nice service. And again, so me being an outsider, not being heavy into politics, there was something quite patriotic about it. And then the show at night when Tom Hanks was hosting, and again, people felt bad that he wasn't wearing an overcoat. He was just wearing a suit and massive gloves, if you notice that. There was just something nice about that. It was sort of a unifying event. And now again, it did feel a little bit like a telethon. It sort of felt like a PBS pledge drive, because they would throw like when we come back and still to come, and then it's not a commercial. It's kind of just like you see on PBS, right? When they break from a show and you've got the person standing there telling how they can make a difference and we'll send you a tote bag and blah, 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 blah. But the performances were fun. Of course, it showcased diversity, which is something you have to do nowadays. And it was great. The fireworks at the end, and with Katy Perry performing. And I've got to tell you, so again, as a Canadian watching from the sidelines, I kind of sat there thinking, wow, I believe now that the U.S. is going to be better now. Like, it's all of a sudden just there was like this fog over the country. There was like, I don't know, there was just something, and it's not there anymore. It's been lifted. It's over now. It's done. Even I, from a distance, felt that there was something different about the country. Now, again, the honeymoon period is what you've got now, right? Thursday was his first full day. He knows the role. He knows the gig. He knows, he's not like he's new there, right? 8 years as a vice president. So it's not like he's brand new to the job and has no exposure or experience in it. So again, congratulations. We did a whole bunch of photos. I got to tell you, I don't know how much money we spent on booze and food, but there was in the evening, it was a work event, of course. So we had red, white, and blue cocktails. There was one left over. I have a pina colada sitting beside me now. We had red, white, and blue cocktails. We had all these pizzas from Domino's. Again, get it, their logo is red, white, and blue. So we ordered Domino's pizza. We had red, white, and blue snacks. We had like ketchup chips, white cheddar popcorn, and then blue like tacos. There was just a bunch of fun. So, but we had the dog. Ernie was dressed in an electoral sort of a hat, red, white, and blue hat, and balloons were all around him, and he had American flag. So we made a good time of it from Canada. So, but yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on the inauguration and all that happened. Again, we're a little bit disappointed that there wasn't. I was wondering, is CNN going to do a split screen if there's riots? Are we going to see the buildings burning? Like, what's going to happen? But yeah, so by all accounts, many Canadians who I talked to on Thursday were seriously disappointed that there wasn't, chaos. Just because that's what the country, you let us down, Americans. You really let us down. What a shame. What a shame. We're going to keep talking. All right, so then on Thursday in Canada, Governor General Julie Payette who has a long-standing reputation of just being a rancorous bitch. It came to light. Now, last year, there were stories in the news that she's a really difficult person to work for. There were recounts from... Now, of course, all of the people came forward, or the reports were anonymous because these people feared they would lose their job or things like that. I absolutely respect that. I do. So we don't know who was saying. We just know that they either were staff or are staff at the time. And... she would make people cry. The one time she said somebody's work was shit. That was the word. That was the word, shit. People were seen leaving her office crying. A woman was seen crying in her car after a meeting one time. And then she was just a diva when it came to international travel and her police detail. We heard, now I should have researched this entire story before, but she had like $150,000 of renovations done to have a separate entrance or some kind of a spiral staircase or an entrance or something made for her cats. Now, again, when I say something like, that's me saying, don't quote me on this, okay? But you can look it up, Julie Pat. And so there were all these stories on the record of, going back almost a year now, that she's just a difficult person to work for. Now it comes to light that when she worked for other organizations, there were complaints about her behavior and the way she treated people, and she either stepped down or was fired or whatever it was. She was an astronaut at one point, too. So it's kind of interesting that she comes into this diva behavior. Now, the Governor General is sort of the Queen's representative and was appointed by the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And so this is another blemish on his record because he's known for his scandals as of late. Oh my God, Canada's becoming worse than the States when it comes to political unrest now. Oh, geez. Damn it, I should get back to the States. I should be in Los Angeles right now as we do this, but believe it or not, it's safer to be in Canada with Corona at this point. With the Corona outbreak happening. I'm sorry, I don't have Corona. When I said with Corona, I don't mean me. But the numbers, right? The caseloads and things. So Julie Payette stepped down Thursday afternoon, and she released a long and rambling statement that even the news anchors were like, "Bear with me. It's a long statement. We just got it." Pages, it seemed like. And she's saying that, well, I understand that people can interpret things in different ways, and, one of I think my dad is in poor health, so it's the right time. Never addressing, not apologizing for, hey, I was a cunt, and I was, nothing like that. No, well, of course she's not going to say that, right? Oh, I'm going to get letters for using that word. Let's stand by, everybody, stand by. But really, like, the apology sort of danced around, and it wasn't even really an apology. It was more just sort of, I'm gracious for the opportunity to do this, and da-da-da-da, never really addressing the scandal, never confirming or denying. Now, the speculation was that because there's probably a whole bunch of lawyers on this one, and they crafted that, and they made sure she's not admitting guilt, and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see how that plays out. But as of right now, Julie Payette resigned as Governor General. It is sort of just a role that's ceremonial. I mean, the person doesn't really have much power. They sort of kick off the federal government, when there's a new house or whatever in session. And even as a Canadian, let's be honest, as I'm speaking this through, even I am kind of like, fuck if I know what she does. Wow, it's swearing day. I'm going to have another sip of that pina colada. Give me a moment. Dead air for a few seconds here, everybody. That really is a good the best drinks. Look at me taking you 7 ways to Sunday like Wendy Williams. I know that there's alcohol in it, but I don't taste it. And those are the most deadly drinks that you can have, everybody. Those are the tough ones. Because you can sit, I'm taping this show for 30 minutes. Do we have another show after this? Am I doing one more after this? And then you stand up, and then you're like, whoa, it hit me. I'm not there yet. I just got this one out of the freezer a few minutes ago. So anyway, that's sort of the recap of the week, and Saturday is yet to come. We don't even know what's going to happen Saturday, or the full day on Friday, right? It's now Friday morning for everybody listening to this, if you listen on the first day it's released. But, what a week. Canadians had bigger political scandals than Americans. We haven't had that in 4 years. Christ. Anyway, send me your thoughts. Whatever I've talked about today. Betty White, the inauguration, Julie Payette. Send me an email. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. SpeakFreeWithJB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
We're out of time. Jeremy Bradley on The Scribble. Talk to you next week.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,